Hey folks, welcome back to the Rockin' Sea Homestead. Today we are going to be cooking some barbecue spare ribs, the 3-2-1 method. So my son recently turned 23. We're having a little belated birthday party because he was sick on his birthday weekend and we had to cancel everything for that. So we're doing it this weekend and he loves barbecue ribs, so we're going to cook them some up. We're going to have some family come over and hopefully have a good time. But we're going to walk through the process that like I use when I cook my spare ribs, and we'll take you through that journey. We're going to start it tonight and finish tomorrow. All right, and like I said, we are going to be using spare ribs, and actually this is a cut called the St. Louis style. So they've already been trimmed down. I actually bought them from the store that way. And these actually look fairly good. There's not a lot of trimming on the front side. But on the back side, there's a little bit of trimming that I like to do. And I like to remove this skin. And we'll show you how to do that. But first off, let's trim off a little bit of this meat back here. And if you're one that likes to make your own sausage and do those kind of things, this is great for sausage. So you can keep it, and when you get enough of it, just put it in the freezer. When you get enough, you can mix it up and make some sausage. I usually store it in the freezer and then usually just cook a big batch of that. So pulling off this membrane, it's real kind of sticky and slippery, but I got this is actually a oyster shucker. But what you're trying to do is get up underneath this membrane and the rib bone and meat and everything, as I just tear it there. And sometimes you do tear it. But what you're trying to do is just separate it. Then once I get enough separation, then I'll grab a paper towel, and most of the time you can get it pulled off in one foul swoop, but I like to get it started first. So I got a paper towel. Any paper towel will do. Doesn't have to be special. And it just helps you grab onto it. There are some special devices you can get to grip it. I just use the paper towel. And then just get a good handful and just rip it away. And there's that membrane. And then if you have any extra like I do here, that's where this tool really comes in handy. You get right up underneath there and just work it and get all of that out as much as you can. All right, so the only other thing that I typically do is, you see where you have this little, so every one of these are rib bones. So this one is kind of a little quarter one. During the cooking process, that's going to burn. So I'm just going to trim that off right now. I'm just going to go right between those two bones there. And again, if you want to save the meat, you can save the meat on that. And then the only thing else I do is usually another part that burns is this little flappy part over here. So I usually take it there's little itty bitty bones that are only about this long. So I usually come back about right there. And just slice that off there. So now you have one nice little, fairly even rack of ribs. So I got all of them trimmed, and I got them in this big plastic baggie. And now I'm just going to put a whole bunch of that in there and let them rest overnight with all that juice in there. All right, so we got it all in there. Just trying to get all the air out of here as much as I can. And then once I get this sealed up, I'm going to put it in the fridge, and we're going to see these babies in the morning. All right, so like I was saying, the ribs have been, I guess, essentially marinating all night in Worcestershire sauce. I got them drained off, and now I'm just going to pat them dry and put some rub on them, then we'll get them in the smoker here in a second. All right, as you can see, they definitely changed a little bit of their coloring. I just try to get them as dry as I can. And typically I like to put peanut oil on them as like a binder for the rub. But unfortunately my sister is allergic to peanuts. So she's coming over today, so what I'm going to use is just regular plain old mustard. And we're going to slather some of this on there, just like that. Get it all worked in. And really all you're wanting is just an even coat. I really don't think this really adds a whole bunch to the flavor profile, but it definitely makes a good bark when it comes to the rub. And I have a big old cup here of my rub. And I put it on pretty thick. You can kind of see it already kind of changing colors and kind of almost turning moist. We're going to let this kind of rest for a little bit and let it, what we call, sweat, and it kind of mingles all those flavors up while I'm doing the rest of these. And then by the time I'm done, we'll be ready to put these on the smoke.
Okay, it's been a couple hours, and I'm going to spray this down with some apple juice, a little apple cider vinegar, they're looking good.
All right, so this is my big smoker. I don't know if you guys have seen this or not. I've had it for 3 or 4 years, but I think it's a 250-gallon propane tank that I bought it from some guy. He made it or had it made. It works really good. We're at that time where we're going to pull these off. So just like I said earlier, it's a 3-2-1 method. So these have been cooking for 3 hours. We're going to pull them off. We're going to wrap them. And then we're going to put them back in for a couple hours. Then after that, we're going to set them back in here just like this with some glaze on it. And they'll finish cooking that way. All right. And you can see the bark is nice and set on that one. Looks pretty. All right. So when I wrap my ribs, I use a variety of different things. The first thing I do is put in a little bit of brown sugar. Then I put some raw honey. And then a little bit of butter. Something like that. Then I'll take them, put them front side down where the back of the ribs are in the back. Then I just kind of repeat that. Then what I'll do is try to fold this up a little bit, about a half fold, kind of like that. Then I'm going to squeeze in some barbecue sauce, and the same stuff I was spraying was apple juice and some apple cider vinegar. I'm going to pour a little bit of that in there. And then I'm just going to finish wrapping this up. And my table's kind of leaning that way. So I do one full wrap like that. Then I come in and wrap it one more time just to make sure everything's sealed in. So you got your nice little foil pack here. And I'll set it just like this on the smoker and cook that for another 2 hours. All right, as you can tell, I got all 5 of them in there, and this thing is cranked up now, getting back up to temperature. Got some baked beans for a side dish. So again, we'll leave it in there for a couple hours, and then after that, we'll take them out, maybe do a little sauce, and then put them back on there and let that set, and they should be good to go. So I did want to show you this thing. Have a little temperature probe. It's made by Tenergy. And it's magnetic, so I can put it over there and it didn't fall off. And you can actually use up to 6 different probes. I just have one in here today. I usually don't probe my meat for my ribs, but if I was doing like a pulled pork or brisket or something like that, I would put a meat probe in there. But it just sets right in there, and it's taking the temperature from grate level right in behind the like the little water pan. I have a little water pan set up in there. So it's giving me a pretty good temperature. And then of course I have this one way over here just to kind of give me a secondary temperature on the far side of the grate. But I tell you, this thing works really good. If you guys are interested in looking at it, I'll leave a link down below in the video or in the description. All right, so it's been 2 hours. These guys are ready to get pulled off and get sauced. I tested this just a while ago. This is really warm in here. But you can see where the ribs are coming off, getting pulled back off the bone a little bit. That one's sticking out. Oh. But I tell you, these white gloves, if you use one of these, are really helpful. There's little insulators, and if you use that, it keeps you from getting them all sticky. So all that juice is from all that funness and goodness that we put on there. So on these ribs, perfect coloring, nice mahogany color. And I don't put just a lot of sauce, just a little bit. And that'll kind of melt in there. So we already put a little bit on there when they're wrapped. So that's what it's going to look like. We'll just let that set. And we're going to do that with the rest of them. And then 1 more hour, these things will be done. All right, well, the ribs are finished. This looks like some beautiful ribs, don't they? So we'll cut this one open real quick. Give you a little picture on the inside. Nice little ribby. We have a smoke ring there, so it should be good. All right, so that's how you make ribs.
Well, thanks for coming along on this journey. And I tell you, I wish YouTube has smell-o-vision because this stuff smells great. We had a great time today. Got some great leftovers. Hey, if you haven't seen this before, click that subscribe button, kick that notification bell, and definitely give us some good thumbs up for making some 3-2-1 ribs for you today. Hopefully you learned something. And I'm going to dig in some leftovers here. But thanks for coming along, and we'll catch you on the next one.